What's up, guys? Today we are going to be doing a video on the MCAT, and heads up, this video based on the little notes I got here. Usually I write them all out before I record these, so if I were to look down, that's like what I'm looking at. Today's video is going to be kind of a little bit longer, but it's basically going to be the MCAT. So just kind of like a disclaimer, I did not get like any crazy score like a 528, but I did get above the 500 needed for the EMSSP program. So I'm just going to give you guys a few tips and a few recommendations if you're about to start prepping for the MCAT. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna say, if you wanna be able to do well in the MCAT and minimize the extra amount of studying you're gonna have to do, you need to actually learn in your classes. And so this is something that people don't usually say, but in your classes like bio, gen chem, all your basic science courses, a lot of times, especially at HBCUs, you might have a professor, it's easy to slide by in, and so you get the grade, but you didn't really learn something, or you can kind of finesse a class. And that's helpful in the time, because then you can spend other time like partying or studying for other classes or doing clubs, whatever you're doing, but you have to learn the basics. So make sure in those fundamental classes that you are not messing around, that you're really studying, taking notes, and making sure you're learning the material. So I would also add to that, practice, especially as you get to higher level courses, studying for multiple hours at a time. And so what I mean by this is, for me, a lot of times I'm an early person, like an early morning person. So a lot of times I might wake up at like 6:30, start studying at like 8, and study from like 8 to 1 if I didn't have class. And so that seems like a long time, but it really helped me in the sense that I never had a problem with stamina for the MCAT. And it's because I practiced engaging my brain for long periods of time I would break maybe once every like 2 hours, like get a little 15-minute break, watch a YouTube video, eat a snack, something like that. But you really want to practice engaging your brain for a long period of time. So the classes, the main courses that you're going to need, I'm going to have two lists. So one, like fundamentals, like you have to have taken these classes, and another one that's kind of like recommended, but not necessarily like you have to have them. And so the ones that you like definitely need to have: intro bio, and I would say 2 semesters of that; chem, which everybody knows you have to have 2 semesters of that; and then gen chem, physics, and biochemistry. Now again, if you don't have these courses, it's not the end of the world, because you can always relearn it, but it's basically you're going to have to teach yourself most of the content from these courses. So it's easier if you just take this prior to your MCAT date. So then the extra courses that helped me and I found beneficial in the bio course and in some of the other sections in terms of rigor was cell bio, anatomy and physiology, 2 semesters, heredity principles, which is just genetics or whatever the course is called at your institution, and then immunology. And for a lot of those, some of those are grad courses at HU, but it helps you learn to read the charts, the diagrams, the language. A lot of those things can be really difficult when you're just starting out on the MCAT. So if you can have the opportunity to take those, then I definitely recommend it. And then the last major thing before we get into like the nitty gritty like details is I use mainly UWorld, I use Anki flashcards, and then I also use Blueprint and YouTube/Khan Academy more so for content review. But I'll go more into that later in the video. So with prep, I definitely recommend starting early. For me, and this has to do more so with COVID, I started the summer before my junior year. For one, I was like, I'm on COVID, like I'm not on campus. When I get back to campus, I don't want to have to do a bunch of studying all the time. So let me go and knock it out. I was like, boom, 520, easy. Study for 6 months, we got this. Light work. And I can tell you that did not happen. I'm not complaining, but I definitely did not get the 520. But I got over the 500, so that's really what counts. But my point is, start really early. What I would recommend doing when you do start is there are plenty of places. I think Khan Academy has some. I think UWorld has a free trial. Start doing questions. I would just maybe do like a week of questions. And for me, questions were super difficult. Like my brain was like, the questions are phrased kind of weird. They ask questions in a strange way that my brain wasn't used to thinking in. So I would recommend doing a week of questions. Every day, maybe just do 5 to 15, just so your brain can get used to the way you're gonna have to think and the way they ask questions. And so I would do that for maybe a week, and then I took the Blueprint. It was like the 4-hour, what do you call it? The 4-hour like the exam. You know what I'm talking about. I'll probably link it or put it up here, a picture or something. But anyway, it was their 4-hour like partial exam. And so you can basically get an idea of where you are. They give you a rough score. I think they tell you it's usually, if you look it up on Reddit, it's usually like a few points off of your usual score, but it gives you an idea of what you're gonna be good at. And so then this is how I would look at that. Obviously, this is not gonna be your final score, but for this program, you need a 500. So if you take that and you get like a 485, clearly you have some work that you're gonna have to do to get there. If you take it and you got a 505, you're doing good. If the 500 is all that you wanna get, right? And so I would just do that just so you can begin to formulate a plan moving forward. So then at this point, I believe without clear direction, you're not gonna achieve your goals. So at this point, once you know how much time you have, what you got on the exam, the first exam, then you need to make goals for when you wanna take your exam and what your score is gonna be. Now that you've done the easy part of this whole preparation process, you have an idea of where you are, hopefully where you want to be, and just from the questions and the practice exam, you should have some sort of idea of how difficult it's going to be to get there. So you have a general idea. So now it's time to lay out your plan. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong with their MCAT studying, is they don't lay out an effective and doable plan to reach their goals. So, and I think I'm gonna probably show this on my computer, screen record it. I edit all these videos myself, so sometimes it's kind of difficult to like make everything work, but I'm gonna try it on my computer so I can like show you guys how I would do it. But basically, all right, so after looking at how long the video was gonna be, like when I edited and everything, I decided I'm just going to make a separate video for how to plan and block out your schedule. So I'm gonna probably link that or put it in the top somewhere. So you just click the video if that's what you would like to do. With the plan, there's just 3 things I kind of want to warn you of. So 1, I would definitely get an accountability partner. It's great if you have friends that are also like studying for the MCAT, or at least in STEM, so they understand the rigor of trying to study for something as big as the MCAT. So get an accountability partner. They'll keep you on it without pushing you too hard. That's the goal. In regards to group studying, because I had a lot of people like at HU who tried to do this, or that I know have tried to do this, I personally don't think group studying all of the time, or for the majority of your MCAT studying, is very effective, in the sense that everybody's needs are very tailored to their score. So we could all have 500s. We could all have gotten 500 on a practice. My highest could have been Psych, Soc, and Chem. Your highest was Bio. We all have different things that we have to work on. And so studying a bulk material for the whole group usually doesn't work. If you are gonna do this, because sometimes even just for like your spirit, just trying to keep pushing through, it can be helpful to see other people going through the same thing. So what I did sometimes is, me and a few other people actually that are in the EMSSP program, we would wake up in the morning, we'd meet at the library, we would do like I don't want to make up a number, but I think it was like an hour of our own thing. And so we would just be sitting there, headphones on, studying what we need to study, answering questions, and 30 minutes of like answering questions, doing Quizlets, flashcards, Jeopardy, stuff like that, just to break up the monotony of the everyday MCAT study. So that's how I recommend you do that. I would also say that you have to recognize that it's okay not to be an overachiever when it comes to the MCAT. For a lot of us, especially like if you're going to medical school, or if you're planning on doing it, you're smart, you're bright. And so maybe for the ACT or in your classes, you're like probably one of the smartest people, get high grades, that type of thing. But for this, you just have to recognize that this is an exam that only the top % of intelligent people take. And so it's okay to not be in the 80th percentile. It's okay not to be in the 70th percentile. I would tell you there were days where I was like in the bottom 20%. Okay, you just gotta keep your head up and keep moving. The last thing I would say in relation to this whole like topic of studying is to try and stress minimally. Make your plan, stick to your plan, recognize that things will go off. Don't worry about it. You're doing the best that you can do, and so you have to be okay with that. And then you have to listen to your body, because burnout is real, especially if you're studying over like a longer period of time, 6 months, 5 months, because you got to put a lot of hours in, and especially on top of life, school, jobs, other things like that, it can take a lot out of you. So if you need to take a week break, take a week break, because burnout is really detrimental to your ability to study. So just listen to yourself. So earlier we went over how you can block out portions of your MCAT schedule. So maybe like 4 hours in this day, 2 hours in this day, how you can do it like that. But now I'm gonna go over how you should break up that each individual MCAT period, or through a week or over a month, how you should look at hour for hour, flashcard for flashcard type of things. And so there are three main portions that you should think about. One is content review, or I should call it content learning. And so this comes from looking at your exam, looking at your questions, concepts that you just do not know. So, if you're learning about muscles, and there's a question about myosin, actin filaments, all those types of things, and you don't even know what they're talking about. That's content review. You have to go back, and this is why I included YouTube and Khan Academy earlier when I said the resources I used. You have to learn it. And so, based on your exam, based how much you feel you do or don't know, you might have to have a higher or lower amount of content review packed in your schedule. The second thing is questions. I did say earlier that the questions on the MCAT are really different, at least for me, from any of the other courses that I've taken. And so practicing questions just for the sake of, one, learning how they ask questions, two, paying attention to what kind of answers they're looking for. There's a rhyme and reason to the MCAT, and if you can start to figure that out by answering questions and then seeing the answers, and a lot of times for resources like UWorld, they have good explanations. So if you can do that more, that will naturally start to enhance your score. And then 3, flashcards. Don't not do flashcards, because the point is, you're going to be learning a lot of information, and especially if it's going to be over 6 months or however long you're doing it, you don't want to start to lose information. And so it's really important that you either make flashcards or they have Anki decks. There are a lot of decks out there. You just got to look for them. Make sure you're reviewing the content so you don't learn it and then forget it. So those are the 3 things: content review, questions, flashcards. I personally, when I was doing it, I had a lot of content review because there was a lot of things that I just literally, physics, especially chem, organic chemistry, I was like, I just don't even know what's going on here. So you have to learn, because even if half the battle is knowing what's going on, and if you can at least understand what the question is, the majority of the time there are like 2 answers you can take out. And then at the very least, your odds of getting the question right goes from 25% to 50%. So highly recommend the content review. The questions, another great thing, especially if your stamina is low. So for me on a daily basis, I was doing in one section. So sometimes I do multiple sections a day, but I was doing, I want to say 30 questions. And I think if you time it on UWorld, that ends up being about 50 minutes, which is a little shorter than a section would be on the actual MCAT, but it forced me to increase my stamina. I had to think for long periods of time without burning out, without getting tired. So if that's a problem for you, the stamina portion, make sure you're doing lots and lots of questions without stopping, okay? In regards to the practice test, because I did talk about taking one at the very beginning to see where you are, I personally did not take a bunch of, I know some people, they took like 8 or 10 practice tests because they knew they needed it. And again, if you're struggling with the stamina, then I'd recommend taking the practice test. But if you're good with the stamina portion of it, I would just recommend taking one maybe 2 or 3 months prior to your exam, just so you can see and correct your plan. So, if you started at the 485, your goal is to get to 500 before your exam, and you take the practice test and you're already at the 496, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. If you didn't make as much progress as you were looking to make, you need to reevaluate your plan and correct it. For the last section, I'm going to call these logistics. And these are just things that didn't fit really cleanly in any of the other areas of things I was talking about, but that are still important. So for the first one, when you're signing up for the MCAT, this is not like a sign up a month before or a few weeks before or 2 months before. You have to do this early, which I know for me and for some of the people I talk to kind of causes anxiety because it makes it like official, but you have to sign up early. And it is, I want to say $325, but they do have a fee assistance program if you do sign up for that, but early. And when I say early, what I mean is my exam was in May and I tried to sign up in February, I think the beginning of February, and almost all the spots were already filled. So, and that was like 3 months before. So make sure you do it like early, 4 to 6 months. Whenever you're going to start, go ahead and sign up. So number 2, and this is as you start approaching test day, I would recommend the week or 2 weeks before you actually take the exam, you need to start going to sleep, waking up, and eating what you're planning on eating the day of the exam. And why is this so important? You guys, everybody here should know basically about circadian rhythm, and that's basically summation of why it's important. If you don't go to sleep, practice going to sleep at the right time, waking up at the right time, and then eating a good meal, you're gonna be thrown off come test day. So I would recommend, this is what I did. I think the week before I started going to sleep at like 10, I would wake up at 6 because that's how early I had to wake up to, get up, eat, and then go to the testing center. And then I would do, again, they say the week of your exam, you're not supposed to go crazy on questions or review, but I would wake up and do like 20 questions. So wake up at 6, brush my teeth, do everything, get ready. And then at 8, I would like practice 20 questions just so I knew my brain would be ready when it was time for me to actually take the exam. So I recommend practicing so that you're not stressed or feel out of it the day of the exam. 3 is make sure you travel to the location beforehand at the time that you're gonna have to do it. So they do have some, I think it's kind of weird, I could never do this, but they do have exams that you can take, I think around 3 p.m. or something like that. Most of them are in the morning, but regardless, I would recommend driving there during that time on a separate day so that you can see, oh, there's traffic. Oh, a road's been closed. Whatever the case is, and so that you know exactly where the building is. Because even with my building, the address took me there, and it had so many rooms, it was huge. And it took me like probably 15 minutes to actually find the room. And I did not go the day before, so I was a little bit stressed, but I showed up super early, so it was okay. But recommend going the day before. Number 4 would be relax and wear comfy clothes. Mainly just because, again, there's not a lot of information, I felt like, and I didn't know, am I supposed to be dressed? Like, what are people wearing? But it's literally when I got there, and I'm in Bradenton, Florida, it was like maybe 12 people. People had pajamas on, like people were chilling. And you should, because you just want to be comfortable so that you can focus on the exam. So I would just say bring like a sweater, bring something so you're not cold, but be comfortable. And make sure you bring food. The way it works is you have I don't want to lie, but I think it's like a 10-minute break between the first and the second, and then the third and the fourth section. Between the second and the third section, you get, I want to say 30-minute break to like eat. So bring food. I eat a lot, I'm a larger guy. So I had food for every single break I was eating because I don't like being hungry. But I would just recommend bring food and something that's light on your stomach, because obviously you don't want to be having stomach issues, have to go to the bathroom, waste time. So make sure I had like sandwiches, breads, things that were kind of like light, but that would keep me full. And then the last thing is, 1, it takes about a month for the results to come back. So after you take it, it's going to be 4 or 5 weeks, and it's so stressful because at this point you've taken it, everybody's asking like, oh, how'd it go, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I don't know how I did. I can't tell you, people keep asking you, it's kind of annoying. And then you gotta wait basically 4 weeks for the results to come out, so just be aware of that. And then honestly, relax. The day of the test is how I thought about it. All the hard work was done. Me starting is a hard thing. Doing the questions, content review, flashcards. You've done this for several months at this point. All the hard work is done. I looked at it as another practice test, and so I was very calm. Like, once I do this, I'm gonna get my 500 and be done. And that's how I think you gotta look at it, because again, most of us in here are science majors, so you should know cortisol does not help anything, especially with recall. So don't stress yourself out. You've done the hard work, you've prepared, now go kill it. So that is the end of the video. I think I got through the majority of what I wanted to get through, my general tips and the things that I did to better prepare for the MCAT. So I hope this is really helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. But YouTube is really weird. Sometimes it doesn't show up. So also DM me. I always leave my Instagram in the description, so feel free to DM me and I'll be free to answer any questions that you guys have. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.